Hello, welcome back. I'm going to be reviewing a decade of my portfolio, aka the Lindsphoto Eras Tour. People always message me and say, oh, I just feel so discouraged. I'm nowhere near where I want to be. Well, I wasn't for about 8 years, and I want to show you that today. I have divided them into sections and I have given them all names. In section 1, titled, I literally just got a camera, the scene is 2014. I had just gotten a camera for my 14th birthday. We are picking up the camera for the first time, so let's begin. So we have, very basic. I would make my friends come to the American River, force them to take photos with me, and I did this for years. We have the hair flips, we have the awkward framing. We have a stick on fire. We got the jumping shots. We're really hitting all the marks of a beginner photographer here. And we have section 2 titled, She Was Raised by Tumblr. Let me set the scene for you. Every girl is wearing a flower crown. We're all blasting Lana Del Rey at full volume and reblogging that Arctic Monkeys album cover all day long. So we can really see the influence here. Now this one I remember got 100 or so reblogs. I was so excited. My friends and I took this in a public park bathroom. The influence is strong. We have Lana Del Rey, we have flower crowns. This one is my favorite. And obviously it wouldn't be Tumblr without the galaxy. So we had to do it to him. We really did. And this is a personal favorite. Now we have section 3 titled, Why Did My Parents Let Me Run Loose Around the River? / Baby's First Reflector. This was the era where I had purchased a reflector and I would blast my models at full volume, as we can see here. I also had just gotten Lightroom and would just paint in light on my subject. As you can see, there's like this weird outer glow here. This is also a pretty gnarly example of that. Section 4, She Learns. This is when I first went to school for photography. I'd been working a few random photo jobs holding reflectors for people. And this is where we're really learning, we're playing. I used to shoot live dance shows, which I think is where my love of just really dramatic photos and lighting came from. But we're starting in the studio, we're playing with some backlight. We got the blue, yellow sin, the cardinal sin of one blue, one red. I also had a prism that I would hold in front of my lens that I used so much that my professors told me to stop. We have the I'm gonna be broke unless I learn how to shoot weddings era. I worked for a few photographers second shooting weddings, and I did shoot a couple of my own. I think this is when I actually learned how to use a camera. I didn't really know how to shoot manual up until shooting weddings. I really thought and was told that the only way you're ever gonna be able to make a living through photography was shooting weddings. But this was a brief era that I think a lot of people looking at my work now don't really know happened, but we're going for the heavy backlight. I bought that same preset pack that everyone had in like 2017. Section 6, A Vision is Born. At this point, I think I had learned how to use a camera and I had learned some technical skills, and now I could start to get creative with them. I think I started to find my voice a little bit more. We have the Tumblr influence still apparent. I look back at these and while they might not be the best shots, they're have a sweet place in my heart because this is kind of the first era of Lindsphoto.
Yep, that's me.
I also bought my first light. I think it was an $100 newer light, and I knocked it into the mud and it was hanging on by an absolute thread. So we're experimenting with lighting, we're experimenting with outfits. This was also my era where I would just blind my models and face them directly into the sun, these poor girls, but we're doing it, we're experimenting. I again have some fondness for this era. It was special in my heart. This was, I'd say these two were some of my favorite photos I ever took at the time. We're experimenting with color. We kind of start to experiment with editing. Some Lindsphoto lore. Throughout college and after college, right before I went freelance, I worked for a tennis company doing editing and shooting for e-com. So I basically was editing like 500 photos of tennis balls and tennis rackets all day long. But this is how I learned Photoshop. Not really through my degree, but more so through just working. So now we have the wide lens becomes my entire personality / COVID era. I had borrowed a wide lens from a friend and ended up falling in love with it. I would not put this thing down at all. We got the famous 14mm lens that I would just go out with, stretch my models out, and just go crazy with. I did not put this thing down for quite a while. But we're finding our voice, Also, special note through this era, during COVID, I was like, I'm going to become a boudoir photographer. I'm going to have a whole change of career, a whole rebrand. So I did do some boudoir shoots. I actually think they're really pretty. I still like them. I wouldn't even be mad if I did some of this today, but it's very different from my current look. Also, we have the first self-portrait with any like editing to it, even though it may just be a circle and then some like weird dust texture that I found online. We have the Baby's First Studio / Wacky Town era. Now this is 2020 and 2021. Towards the very end of 2020, my friend who had his own little studio set up was leaving town for a few months and offered to rent it to me. Now keep in mind, I was making this much money. $0. I had no money to my name. And I had enough money for 1 month of this studio rent. And I said, I really want it. I get off work at 3:30. It gets dark at 4 because it was winter. I'm gonna just try it for a month and see what happens. These edits, I don't love, but I can admit that they were an important part of my journey because this is when I really started to utilize my Photoshop knowledge because I had no money, I had no resources, I had very limited people to shoot with, and I was thinking to myself, all I'm shooting on is a white backdrop. How am I gonna keep these photos fresh? So the Photoshop knowledge comes into play. Some of these photos I still do love. There was a lot of bad ones. I didn't put all the bad ones in here, but there were some bangers. This was my first shoot that kind of blew up on social media. At this point, I was thinking about potentially quitting my job and moving to LA to pursue my hopes and dreams. We have the famous profile photo. Halfway through 2021, we quit our job, we moved to LA, we don't know anybody, we have no friends, no nothing out here, but we just send it. We had some bangers when I first moved to LA. We had a lot of photos that really blew up on social media. We had this banger, we had this banger. I started to experiment with mixed media at this time. We really started to get wacky with the photos though. I started to really realize I am my own boss now. I can kind of take my work in whatever direction I want, hence Wacky Town. We have the actually okay era. Up until this era, I hadn't really liked any of my own work. But this era is when I think my technical skill, my creative vision, everything all started to fall into place. And this is the work that I'm actually still really, really happy with. We started to do the vintage photo shoots. We're getting really comfortable with the mixed media. We're getting a little weird and a little conceptual with our editing and our shooting. We have this photo, which has blown up on the internet like 15 times. We're really getting comfortable with our studio lighting, playing with texture, playing with all kinds of different mixed media elements, and we have the current day. At this point in my career, I feel that I'm really happy with my own work. I'm happy with my vision. I feel very confident about where I'm at. These photos that I have in here are definitely some of my favorites. And I think I may have gone a little overboard with the editing, but I actually prefer it that way because I really do love editing. I just have so much fun with all of these photos. This section definitely has some of my favorites in here. As you can see, progression is definitely not linear. You have to experiment and try pretty much everything until eventually you gain enough skill and confidence to pursue a style that you find is true to yourself. And that was the Lindsphoto Eras Tour. I hope you enjoyed it.